All right, let's dive into a career today that's all about the heart of massive ships and boats, vessel engine inspector. Now, you're interested in this role, and it's a pretty cool gig. You get to inspect everything from electric motors on tiny boats all the way to giant cargo ships. You even get to look at nuclear reactors.
Yeah, it's a huge range.
Exactly. So to help you crush that interview, we've got some insider tips from RoleCatcher.
Yeah, we're going to break down those tough interview questions, give you some winning responses.
Okay, so first, what does a typical day look like for a vessel engine inspector?
Well, you could be in a shipyard one day, climbing around a massive engine, and then out on the sea the next, inspecting a fishing boat.
Wow, so variety is definitely the spice of life in this job. And speaking of spice, the career guide mentions some challenging environments, right? Like confined spaces, heights, all kinds of weather.
Oh, for sure. But there's also potential for travel, and the job security is great. Plus, there's definitely room to move up the ranks.
Okay, so lots of pros to balance out those cons. Are you ready to jump into those interview questions?
Hit me with them.
All right, first up, a classic. Can you explain your experience with engine inspection? Seems straightforward, but what are they really getting at here?
Well, they want to know more than just a list of engines you've seen. They want to know the depth of your experience. More importantly, how it connects to this specific role.
So how do you avoid just giving a generic answer?
Tell a story. Instead of just saying, I've worked on engines, paint them a picture. How many inspections have you done? What types of vessels? Any specific engine components you're a pro at?
And tie those experiences back to the job description, right? That's where RoleCatcher can come in handy.
Absolutely. Their AI can help you zero in on those keywords.
So a strong answer might be something like, over the past 5 years, I've conducted over 200 inspections on cargo ships, focusing on both routine checks and post-repair assessments. I've also received specialized training in troubleshooting complex electrical systems, which aligns with the requirements outlined in the job description.
That's perfect. It's concise, it's specific, and it shows you've done your research. Of course, make sure to personalize it to your own background.
Okay, on to question number 2. How do you identify and diagnose engine problems? This one seems to go a bit deeper.
Yeah, they're testing your problem-solving skills and technical knowledge here. They want to know you can think on your feet, not just follow a checklist. Do you have a system? What tools or techniques do you use?
Okay, so how do you explain all that without getting too technical?
Walk them through a scenario. Describe a common engine problem and how you'd tackle it step by step. Visual inspections, listening for sounds, using diagnostic tools, and analyzing data.
Got it. Show them your process, keep it clear and logical.
Exactly. And don't jump to conclusions before you have all the info. Emphasize that you're thorough.
Okay, so a good answer might start with, when I find an engine problem, safety comes first. I secure the area and make sure proper lockout, tagout procedures are followed.
Great. Shows you prioritize safety.
Then, next, I do a visual inspection, looking for signs of damage, leaks, wear and tear. Then, I use a diagnostic scanner to check for error codes and analyze sensor data, cross-referencing that with the engine manuals to pinpoint the problem.
Very nice. Shows you know your way around diagnostics and technical docs.
Of course, they can adapt this to their own methods and the engines they've worked on.
This ties into something the career guide talks about. Continuous learning. Engine tech is always changing, so interviewers want to know you're keeping up.
Right. And RoleCatcher can point to relevant publications, training, even professional organizations to help with that.
Exactly. Okay, question 3. Can you describe your experience with diesel engines? Pretty specific. What's the play here?
Well, the career guide says a strong understanding of mechanics is key for this role. So this is where you can really show off your technical knowledge.
Right. Don't just say you've seen one. Talk about specific projects or repairs, challenges you faced. You could even mention specific diesel engine components and how they work. Like, I've spent 8 years on diesel engines for fishing vessels, done everything from routine maintenance to major overhauls, replacing fuel injectors, reconditioning cylinder heads. I'm also up to date on emissions regulations, which is critical for these engines.
Perfect. It covers practical experience, specific tasks, and even the environmental aspect. Really hits those knowledge and learning points from the career guide. Okay, question 4. How do you ensure compliance with safety regulations during engine inspections? Seems less about the engine itself, more about your mindset.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about safety. They want to know you don't just know the rules, you live by them.
So instead of just saying, I follow safety rules, what kind of answer really stands out?
Get specific. Tell them how you assess risks before you even start an inspection. Mention using safety gear, like glasses and gloves. Highlight that you understand lockout-tagout procedures, which is key for preventing accidents when working on live systems.
Oh, good call on lockout tagout. For those who don't know, it's a system for isolating energy sources, so nothing starts up accidentally during work.
It's crucial, and mentioning it shows you know how to minimize risks.
Okay, so a good answer might sound like, before every inspection, I check the vessel's safety documentation and do a risk assessment, identifying any hazards. I always wear the right PPE, gloves, glasses, hearing protection. And when working on electrical or fuel systems, I always follow lockout-tagout to isolate those energy sources before starting.
That's a great answer. Shows you're proactive and don't cut corners on safety.
And again, they can customize this with any specific safety protocols they use. Okay, question 5. Can you describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a difficult engine problem?
All right, story time. They want to see how you handle pressure, use your knowledge, think on the spot.
Like a glimpse into your problem-solving process in action.
Exactly. Choose a challenging example and walk them through how you tackled it.
What are some key things to include in the story?
Make sure to describe the problem, your steps to diagnose and resolve it, and the tools you used. Most importantly, highlight the positive outcome. Did you get the engine running? Prevent a breakdown?
Showing them you're a problem solver who can rise to the occasion.
Exactly. And be specific. Don't just say, I used a wrench. Say, I used a torque wrench to tighten the bolts to the specs.
Details. That's how you show your expertise.
Oh.
Okay, how's this for a sample? I was inspecting a tugboat's engine, and I noticed a sudden oil pressure drop. Knowing this could be serious, I shut down the engine right away and started troubleshooting.
Good start. Setting the scene, showing urgency, and taking action.
I checked the oil level, it was fine. So I moved on to the oil filter and found it was totally clogged.
Nice. You're systematically eliminating possibilities.
After changing it, the oil pressure still wasn't normal. I used a pressure gauge and traced the issue back to a leak in the oil cooler line.
Showing you can use those diagnostic tools and pinpoint the problem.
I repaired the leak, bled the oil system, restarted the engine, and monitored the oil pressure to make sure everything was back to normal.
Perfect. You've described the solution, verified the repair, and emphasized that positive outcome. This shows you can handle a challenge, use tools effectively, and most importantly, solve the problem.
Again, they should tailor it to their experience. Maybe they faced a different problem or used a different method.
It's about showcasing your strengths in a real-world situation, and this ties into the idea of staying current with engine technology and trends, something we talked about earlier.
Right. Always good to show you're learning and growing in the field. Okay, that brings us to question 6. How do you stay up to date with the latest engine technology and industry trends?
Here's where you get to show your passion. They want someone who's proactive, who takes the initiative to learn.
So how do you go beyond just saying, I read things?
Be specific. Mention the publications you read, courses you take, conferences you attend, organizations you're a part of.
The career guide actually mentions a couple of relevant organizations, SNAME and ASME. Can you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. SNAME is the Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers, global organization focused on advancing marine technology. ASME is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. They set standards for mechanical devices, including those used in marine applications. Being a member shows you're connected and committed to professional development.
Okay, so a good answer could be, I stay updated by subscribing to Marine Propulsion Magazine and attending the annual SNAME Maritime Convention. I also do webinars from engine manufacturers like Caterpillar and Cummins, and I'm an active ASME member participating in online forums to discuss trends.
Nailed it. Highlights different learning methods, names specific resources, and shows your engagement with the professional community. And RoleCatcher has even more resources to help you stay ahead.
Totally. They have articles, videos, and personalized recommendations based on your goals. It's like a learning path tailored just for you.
Exactly. Okay, question 7. Can you explain your experience with engine repair?
Now, the career guide says vessel engine inspectors don't always do the repairs themselves, but they need to understand the process to make good recommendations. So what should people highlight here?
This is where you prove you can walk the walk. Talk about specific repairs you've done, tools you've used, challenges you've overcome.
The more specific, the better, right?
Absolutely. If you've replaced a cylinder head, explain the process, the precautions you took, maybe a tricky situation you solved.
And if you've got any special training or certifications in engine repair, now's the time to mention it.
Definitely. Adds credibility and shows your dedication.
So a good start might be, I have over 10 years of experience repairing engines, specializing in diesel and gasoline engines for both commercial and recreational vessels. I've performed basic tune-ups to complete engine rebuilds, replacing pistons, crankshafts, you name it.
Good start. Shows your experience and some impressive tasks.
I'm also good at welding and fabrication, which comes in handy for repairs, especially when finding parts is tough or time is tight.
That's a great addition. Shows you're resourceful and have skills beyond the basics.
And remember, they can focus on the types of engines and repairs they know best.
It's all about showing a real understanding of engine repair and your practical abilities.
All right, question 8. Can you describe your experience with hydraulic systems? This wasn't explicitly mentioned in the career guide, but I'm guessing it comes up a lot, given how common hydraulics are on boats.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hydraulic systems are essential from steering to cargo handling. They want to know you're comfortable with them.
So what do you do if you haven't worked specifically as a hydraulics technician?
Focus on the fundamentals. Explain how you understand basic hydraulic principles. Pressure, flow, force.
The career guide stresses a strong foundation in mechanics, so this is where that comes into play.
Exactly. You can even compare engine mechanics and hydraulics, showing how they're connected on a vessel.
And then talk about any tasks you've done that involved hydraulics, even if it wasn't your main focus.
Right. Like, while I mostly do engine repair, I've worked on hydraulics during maintenance and troubleshooting. I know how to check fluid levels, inspect hoses for leaks, and bleed the system.
Good starting point. And if you've had specific training or experience with hydraulic components, mention that too.
The more details, the better. For example, I've also replaced hydraulic pumps and actuators, and I know the safety precautions for working with high-pressure systems.
Okay, question 9. Can you describe a time when you had to work with others to resolve an engine issue? Shifting focus to teamwork now.
Yeah, they want to see you can collaborate effectively.
So what are they looking for in the answer?
That you can communicate, share your knowledge, and work toward a shared goal.
How do you pick a good example to show that?
Pick a situation where teamwork was key to success. Describe the problem, your role, and the importance of communication throughout the process.
And a positive outcome.
Definitely. So, for example, we were working on a cruise ship's propulsion system, and there was a vibration we couldn't figure out. I got together with the chief engineer and the electrical technician to run tests and analyze data.
Okay, so you've set the scene and introduced the team.
Right. Then you'd say, by talking openly and sharing our expertise, we were able to rule out a few things. Finally, we found a faulty bearing in the gearbox, which was causing the vibration.
Highlighting the importance of communication for diagnostics.
Exactly. And to wrap it up, we replaced the bearing, got rid of the vibration, and made sure the ship could operate safely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Teamwork for the win. And of course, the listener can adapt this to their own experience, showing their contributions to a successful team effort. Okay, on to the last question in this set. Can you explain your experience with marine engines? This seems pretty broad.
It does, but it's a chance to show you really know your stuff about engines designed specifically for boats and ships.
Like they're saying, prove you understand the challenges of engines operating in a marine environment.
Exactly. Go beyond general engine knowledge and get into the specifics of marine engine design, operation, and maintenance.
So what should someone focus on in their answer?
Highlight your experience with different marine engines, from small outboards to huge diesel systems. Mention brands, show your depth of knowledge.
Okay, for example, somebody could say, I've worked on everything from outboard motors on small fishing boats to massive diesel propulsion systems on cargo ships. I'm familiar with brands like Volvo Penta, Yanmar, and MAN Diesel and Turbo.
That's a strong start. Shows experience and knowledge of specific brands, which adds credibility.
Then they could add, I know how important corrosion-resistant materials and specialized lubricants are for marine engines, especially with the challenges of operating in saltwater.
Great. Shows you're thinking about the unique factors of the marine environment.
And I'm also up to date on the latest emissions regulations, which are getting stricter all the time.
Good point. Environmental awareness is a big deal in this industry. Showing you care about sustainability is a plus.
As always, they should personalize it with the aspects of marine engines they know best.
It's all about showcasing their expertise and enthusiasm for the field.
Well, that's our first 10 practice questions. We've covered a lot. Technical expertise, safety, teamwork.
Being a vessel engine inspector is clearly a multifaceted role.
But we're not done yet. In the next part, we'll dive into some more specific questions and keep weaving in insights from the career guide. Plus, we'll talk more about how RoleCatcher can help you stand out.
Okay, so let's get back to those interview questions. We're going to get a little more specific now, really test your knowledge.
All right, fire away.
Question 11. What are some common problems you've encountered with fuel systems on marine engines? Now, fuel systems are obviously super important. What kind of issues are they looking for here?
Yeah, it's about showing you understand how fuel systems can impact the engine.
Right. Think about things like fuel leaks, clogged filters, air in the lines, maybe faulty injectors. Have you seen those problems? How did you figure out what was wrong and how did you fix them?
It's also a good chance to mention safety precautions, right? Since fuel is flammable.
Oh, absolutely. Safety first,
Yeah.
always. You could say something like, one common problem I've seen is fuel starvation because of clogged filters, especially in older engines or those using biofuels. Regular filter maintenance is really important to prevent that.
Makes sense. So you're highlighting a common problem, explaining why it happens, and emphasizing preventative maintenance.
Exactly. And you could add something like, I've also dealt with air getting into the fuel lines, which can make the engine run rough or even stall. In those cases, I use a vacuum gauge to find the leak and then bleed the system to get the air out.
Okay, so using the right tools and procedures to solve the problem.
Right. And of course, personalize it with your own experiences. Maybe you've seen different fuel system issues or have experience with specific systems, like fuel injection.
Okay, question 12. How do you approach working in confined spaces on a vessel? Sounds like a safety question.
Definitely. Confined spaces on a boat can be really dangerous if you're not careful. Bad ventilation, limited access, and you've got potential hazards like fuel vapors or hot surfaces.
So they want to see if you take safety seriously.
Exactly. Emphasize the need for training and certification for working in those spaces. Talk about risk assessments and safety checklists. Mention things like ventilation and air quality monitoring.
Add personal protective equipment, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Respirators, safety harnesses, gas detectors, all that good stuff. So you could say, I always put safety first when working in confined spaces. Before I go in, I do a risk assessment, make sure there's good ventilation, and wear the proper PPE, like a respirator and a harness.
Good. You've covered the basics of safety procedures.
And you could add, I also stay in contact with someone outside the confined space and use a gas detector to check the air quality the whole time I'm in there.
Excellent. Communication and monitoring are key.
And if you have any specific training or certifications for confined spaces, this is the time to mention those. Okay, on to question 13. Can you describe a time when you had to deal with unexpected problems during an inspection?
Sounds like a problem-solving question.
Absolutely. Inspections don't always go as planned. Things break, weather changes, you find unexpected issues. They want to know you can adapt and still get the job done safely.
So what makes a good example for this question?
Pick a time when you had to think on your feet and improvise. Describe the problem, how you figured out what was going on, and the steps you took to fix it.
Show them you're resourceful and can stay calm under pressure.
Right. So for instance, I was inspecting a cargo ship's engine room and I found a pretty big oil leak that no one had reported. It was in a really awkward spot and the ship was supposed to leave in a few hours.
Okay, setting the scene, time pressure, unexpected problem.
Exactly. Then you could say, I knew delaying the ship would cost a lot of money, so I assessed the situation and came up with a temporary fix to contain the leak until it could be properly repaired.
Quick thinking.
Right. I used absorbent pads and a temporary barrier to stop the oil from spreading, and I worked with the ship's engineer to plan a permanent repair once they reached their destination. That way, the ship could leave on time, but we were also keeping the crew and the environment safe.
Great ending. You solved the problem, kept things on schedule, and showed that you care about safety and efficiency.
And of course, the listener can adapt this to their own experience, showing their ability to deal with unexpected issues.
Okay, question 14. Can you explain the different types of cooling systems used in marine engines? Back to the technical stuff.
Cooling systems are super important to keep engines from overheating. And there are a few different types they use in marine applications. The interviewers want to make sure you know that.
Right, like direct cooling, where seawater cools the engine directly, and indirect cooling, where fresh water cools the engine through a heat exchanger.
Exactly. Talk about both types, give some examples, and explain the pros and cons of each. For example, you could say, direct cooling systems, or raw water cooling, are common in smaller boats. They're simple and cheap, but they can cause corrosion if you don't maintain them well.
Makes sense. And for indirect systems.
You could say, indirect cooling systems with a heat exchanger are more common in bigger boats with high-performance engines. They're better at preventing corrosion and controlling the temperature, but they're also more complicated and expensive. You could even mention specific types of heat exchangers, like shell and tube or plate and frame.
Nice. showing off that in-depth knowledge. And it's good to mention any experience they have with these systems or how they troubleshoot problems.
Right. Like, have you ever had to fix a leaking heat exchanger or a clogged seawater intake? If so, talk about it.
So a good answer might be, I'm familiar with both direct and indirect cooling systems. Direct cooling is simpler, but you have to watch out for corrosion. Indirect cooling is better for preventing corrosion, but it's more complex. In my experience, regular maintenance is crucial for both types to make sure the engine runs well and lasts a long time.
Perfect. Covers all the basics. And it's a good time to mention staying up to date with new technologies like we talked about earlier.
Right. Cooling system technology is always changing.
Exactly. Mention that you're keeping an eye on those advancements, always learning about new innovations. And RoleCatcher can help with that too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Their platform gives you access to all the latest industry news and research, so you're always on the cutting edge.
All right, question 15. How do you assess the overall condition of a marine engine during an inspection? That's pretty broad.
It's like if they're asking you to summarize your entire inspection process.
Think big picture. What are the most important things you look at? What are the warning signs? How do you know if an engine is healthy or needs attention?
So less about specific steps, more about showing your overall understanding.
Right. Talk about your general approach. Do you have a checklist? Do you combine visual inspection with tools and tests?
The career guide says vessel engine inspectors need to be good with a variety of tools, so this is a chance to show that off.
For sure. Mention specific tools, like a bore scope to see inside the engine, a compression tester to check the cylinders, an infrared thermometer for hot spots.
And talk about the key areas you focus on. Fluids, belts, electrical systems, exhaust, cooling system. What are the signs of wear and tear? Leaks, corrosion, noises, vibrations.
Good points. And don't forget to mention maintenance records. They give you a history of the engine and any recurring problems.
So a good answer could be, when I'm assessing an engine, I use a system that combines visual inspection, diagnostic testing, and operational assessments. I start by checking the maintenance records to see the engine's history. Then I do a visual inspection, focusing on things like fluid levels, belts, electrical connections, and the exhaust system. I use different tools like a bore scope, compression tester, and infrared thermometer to see what's going on inside the engine.
That's a great foundation. You've described your process, highlighted important areas, and mentioned specific tools.
And then add something like, I also listen for any weird noises or vibrations when the engine's running, which can point to problems, and I make sure to document everything and tell the owner about any issues or recommendations.
Excellent. Shows you're thorough, detail-oriented, and good at communication.
They can personalize it based on their experience, of course.
The main thing is to show you know how to inspect an engine and assess its condition accurately.
Okay, question 16. How do you stay current with changes in maritime regulations and safety standards? So we talked about staying up to date on engine tech, but what about the rules and regulations?
Yeah, those are constantly changing. They're always updating them for new technologies, environmental concerns, and to prevent accidents. They want to make sure you know what's going on.
How can you show them you're on top of those changes?
Be specific. Tell them where you get your info. Do you read industry publications about maritime law? Do you go to conferences or webinars on safety standards? Are you a member of any professional organizations that keep you updated?
The career guide mentions ASINI and ASANE, which often provide updates on regulations and standards.
Right. Being part of those organizations shows you're connected to the industry and have access to good resources. You could even mention specific regulations that you know, like SOLAS, the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, or MARPOL, the Pollution Prevention Convention.
Okay, so a strong answer might sound like, I keep up to date by subscribing to Maritime Reporter and Engineering News and Lloyd's List. I also go to the SNAME Maritime Convention every year and do webinars from the International Maritime Organization, IMO. I'm a member of both SAME and ASME and regularly look at their stuff on safety and environmental regulations.
Excellent answer. Lots of good information sources and specific examples.
And, as always, tailor it to your own experience. If you're interested in a specific area of maritime law or safety, mention it.
Definitely. Show them you're proactive and engaged in staying informed about the rules and regulations that apply to the job. And RoleCatcher can be helpful here too, right?
Absolutely. Their AI can sift through all that regulatory stuff and find the info that matters most for your role and location. Plus, it can alert you to any changes, so you're always in the loop.
It's like having a personal assistant for regulations.
Okay.
Question 17. How do you handle disagreements or conflicts with crew members or vessel owners regarding engine repairs or safety issues? This one's all about how you work with people.
It's about being assertive, but also diplomatic.
Exactly. You might need to say things people don't want to hear, but you have to do it professionally and keep those relationships positive.
So how do you show them you can do that?
Start by saying you believe in clear and open communication. Explain that you're always calm and professional.
The career guide does say communication skills are important for vessel engine inspectors. Not just understanding engines, but explaining things to others.
Right. You could say something like, I always try to be clear and respectful when there's a disagreement. I present the facts and support my recommendations with evidence.
Good. Focusing on the facts and staying professional.
And then add, I listen to what the crew or owners have to say and try to see things from their side. I think working together and finding common ground is the best way to keep everyone safe.
Shows that you're willing to collaborate and find solutions together.
Exactly. And if you've ever dealt with a disagreement successfully, tell them about it.
Real-life examples always help.
Absolutely. The key is to show you can communicate well, handle disagreements calmly, and focus on safety and finding solutions that work for everyone. Okay, question 18. How do you stay physically fit for the demands of the job? Didn't see that coming.
Well, the career guide did mention that the job can be physically demanding.
Oh, for sure. Climbing, maneuvering in tight spots, lifting heavy things. You got to be in decent shape to do all that safely.
So they're not expecting an Olympic athlete, but they want to know you're aware of the physical demands and take care of yourself.
Exactly. Show them that you're committed to staying healthy and fit.
What are some good things to mention?
Talk about activities that build strength, endurance, and flexibility. Weightlifting, swimming, running, cycling, even yoga.
And good food and sleep are important too.
Absolutely. You could say something like, I know this job requires physical strength, so I work hard to stay in shape. I lift weights, go for runs, do some yoga. I also eat healthy and make sure I get enough sleep.
Good. Shows you're proactive and understand the importance of overall health.
Right. And if you have any specific fitness goals or hobbies, mention those too.
Okay. Question 19. How do you manage your time and prioritize tasks effectively? Seems like a pretty standard question.
Time management is key for this job, though. They often work under tight deadlines, got to deal with unexpected problems, and might have multiple inspections or repairs going at once.
So they need to be organized and efficient.
Absolutely. Tell them about the specific techniques you use to stay organized. Do you use a planner, to-do lists, reminders?
The career guide does mention being organized and detail-oriented, which is essential for managing a busy workload.
Exactly. You could say something like, I'm a very organized person. I use a planner to schedule everything, a task management app to keep track of deadlines, and I break big projects down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Good. Shows you have a system.
Right. And then you could add, when I'm prioritizing, I always think about safety and urgency first. Anything that could affect the safety of the boat or the people on board is my top priority. I also look at deadlines and potential delays, and I allocate my time accordingly.
Great point. Shows you're thinking about the consequences and making smart decisions.
Right. And if you've ever had to juggle a lot of things successfully, tell them about it.
Okay, last question. What are your salary expectations? Always a tough one.
This is where research comes in handy. Before the interview, look up the average salary for vessel engine inspectors in your area. Websites like Glassdoor or Indeed can help.
And think about your experience and what makes you valuable.
Right. More experience and certifications usually mean a higher salary.
Instead of giving a hard number, you could say, I'm looking for a salary that's in line with the market rate for someone with my experience and skills. I believe I can be a valuable asset to your team, and I'm happy to talk about a fair compensation package.
Perfect. Shows you know your worth and that you're willing to negotiate. And RoleCatcher can actually help with this too.
Oh, that's right. Their platform has salary data for different roles and locations, so you know what to expect.
Exactly. They can help you figure out a realistic salary range and give you the confidence to negotiate effectively.
Well, that wraps up our 20 practice questions for aspiring vessel engine inspectors. We've covered a lot. Technical stuff, safety, teamwork, even salary expectations.
It's been a great discussion.
But wait, there's more. In the next part, we'll recap some key takeaways and give you some final tips to rock that interview. Plus, we'll take a deeper look at how RoleCatcher can help you land your dream job. All right, so we've talked about a lot. Engine mechanics, safety, teamwork. You're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot to remember about being a vessel engine inspector.
It is a lot, but you're doing great. It's clear you're really interested in this and you're ready to learn.
Okay, so before we finish up, let's try to sum up all that info into some key takeaways. What are the absolute must-dos to nail that interview?
Well, like we've been saying, preparation is key. We went over 20 practice questions, but there are a lot of other things they could ask about. Use these questions as a starting point to think about your own experiences.
Right, those are just examples. Use them to create your own answers that show off your unique skills. And like we mentioned, RoleCatcher can really help with this.
For sure. Their AI can look at job descriptions and help you tailor your answers to include the keywords recruiters are looking for. It can also give you feedback on your practice answers so you can sound more confident and give better content.
Like a personal interview coach. Okay, so besides practicing, what else can help a candidate stand out?
Show them you're excited about the job. Interviewers want to see that you're not just going through the motions, but that you're genuinely interested in the work and ready to learn more.
Right, like show them that spark when you talk about engines. Let them see your passion.
Exactly. And don't forget about those soft skills. Communication, teamwork, problem solving, those are all crucial for a vessel engine inspector. And don't just say you have them. Show them with examples from your past experiences.
So it's not just about what you know, but how you explain it and how you work with others. It's about showing that you're well-rounded and can handle both the technical and the people side of the job.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. Imagine you're inspecting a brand new engine and it suddenly stops working. There's no history, no previous repairs to help you. How would you approach that? How would you use your knowledge and intuition to figure out what's wrong and get it running again?
That's a good one. Makes you think outside the box and apply your knowledge to a new situation. That's the kind of thinking that will make you a valuable vessel engine inspector.
And it's something you can start thinking about now, even before any interview. See what solutions you can come up with.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up our deep dive into the world of vessel engine inspectors.
You've got this. Go get that job.
We've talked about what the job's all about, broken down those interview questions, and showed you how RoleCatcher can help you prepare.
Good luck with the interview.
And remember, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way. Thanks for joining us, and good luck out there.